Hello there and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video, this time on the new Artifact Crafting system. Good, the bad, and the possibilities. So what am I going to talk about in this video? Well, pretty much my opinions on what the Artifact Crafting system did well, what it did bad, and what it could be doing good, depending on what Hoyoverse is going to decide on going forward. Because I feel like while a lot of people already know why we dislike this system, because it requires a ton of resources over a long period of time, I feel like it entirely depends on how many sanctifying essences we can get per patch, free to play from exploration. Because right now, if you would be to start Natlan, by fully exploring Natlan and also crafting one sanctifying essence from folder artifacts, you would be able to get at least one goblet in this patch. But I'll talk a bit about that in a bit. So, what is the Artifact Crafting system and how do you actually get it? So, in order to get this, in order to get the gadget, you need to complete and Battle Chapter 4, obtain a total of 25 5-star relics. I feel like this is a bit early because you can start getting 5-star artifacts even before AR45, though people mostly tell you to farm 5 stars at AR45 because you have a higher chance to get them. But I feel like with the fact that 5-star artifacts are going to be very rare even at the point you get 25 5-star artifacts, especially if you explore Natlan. If you explore Natlan, you can get 3 sets of each of the new artifact sets from Natlan, the support set and the DPS set. That puts you well over the amount of artifacts required in order to even get this, but you would have barely just explored Natlan, right? Which, don't get me wrong, getting 5-star artifacts for free in the world from world exploration is awesome. What I'm trying to say is I feel like this is a bit too early to be giving it to players, especially if they don't really understand the artifact system to begin with. So this could be sort of a new noob trap that you get it and you start crafting those sanctifying essences to get some really good artifacts, but you accidentally throw out some already pretty decent ones, or ones that could become quite decent if you level them up. Speaking of leveling them up, which is going to be pretty much the next thing I'm going to talk about. So how does this whole thing work? Well, you have a gadget. You come in here in the gadget menu at Artifact Transmuter. You have a timer. You will always have a timer and extractable sanctifying elixir remaining the cycle, because you can use this gadget once per patch in order to get one sanctifying essence. And how to get the sanctifying essence, which will lead into the tip I'm going to have. The way you get it is by feeding artifacts in. Unfortunately, I cannot feed any. I cannot even click on it to put them in there. But if I would be to click on this artifact to put it in here, it would give me 4 out of 100. So pretty much you need to feed 100 levels of artifacts. But here's the thing: it doesn't take experience in consideration, and here's where the tip comes in. Do not feed highly invested artifacts into the extraction process, because a level 20 artifact has way more experience in it than a level 4 artifact, because experience goes up exponentially with each level. If you've ever seen that, a lot of the times level 16 to level 20, mainly 18 and 20 actually, take a lot more experience than anything previously, right? So that's the thing. Do not put in level 20 artifacts because you're just wasting a ton of XP. If you have fodder level 20 artifacts, like this one's really bad with a lot of defense and only 1 crit rate roll, fodder it into a different artifact, like for experience purely. So now that you know how to get sanctifying essence, which is through this method, the battle pass, there's one in the paid battle pass, and there's at the very least the 3 from world exploration. Now there are some more. There's at least 1, possibly multiple, inside of the pyro token, and maybe the statue, but I don't remember seeing any in the statue. So there are quite a lot of ways to get these, and this is why I've been saying to maybe let's wait and see what 5.1 is going to bring when it comes to Sanctifying Essence. But before I get into that point, boy, here is the way to craft an artifact, which the funny part is it doesn't even guarantee you get a good one. It doesn't even guarantee you a good one. So to craft an artifact, you need different amounts of Sanctifying Elixir. Either 1 for the flower and the feather, 3 for the hat, 2 for the sands, or 4 for the goblet. And this is where most of the issues come from. The system as a whole before the release of 5.0 felt amazing. We were able to get some form of currency to trade it in for near perfect artifacts. But then 5.0 came out and we got this, and I came in here personally. I was like, oh my god, I got the free Sanctifying Essence from elixirs, from the anniversary rewards thingies from the mail that we got at the start of the region. And I came in here, maybe I'm gonna craft a cool pyro goblet, which I ended up doing, and I'll go on to that goblet after I'm done here. And I was like, nah, I'll do it later. And then a friend of mine who was on Genshin at the same time was like, wait, why can't I craft a goblet? And I was like, what do you mean you can't craft a goblet? You have a Sanctifying Elixir, right? And yeah, we ended up realizing that you actually need 4 of them to craft a goblet. Now, I will bring up 2 things. One, which is a reasoning why it is like this, and 2, which would be a possibility that I hope is going to happen. So first, why are goblets so expensive? Well, the thing is, if you craft yourself a main, let's say, for example, what I did. I crafted an on-set pyro damage main stat for Arlecchino. I think I think it's at the bottom, yeah. A Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy goblet for Arlecchino, with pyro damage as a main stat. Because I wanted to do an upgrade for Arlecchino, this would allow me to get the pyro goblet quite easily, and that's pretty much it. This allows you to get on-set goblets for characters that can then be used as offset pieces for other characters. Every pyro DPS is going to be able to use this pyro goblet that has guaranteed crit rate and crit damage. But that's where kind of like the problem comes. Even though it has crit rate and crit damage, from what I've heard, not only can all your rolls go into flat defense or flat attack or whatever flat stat you get, but it doesn't come with 4 stats guaranteed. You will end up having a random roll go into the into unveiling the 4th stat if you're not lucky enough to get the 4 stat piece, which is, I feel like, the biggest and worst thing in here, alongside, of course, the amount that is required. But as I said, with the fact that a goblet is so versatile, I am not surprised that it actually costs the most. A pyro goblet or a hydro goblet, even though you craft it on set for a specific character, can always be used as an offset piece for any other character of that same element. And that's why it would cost so much. Now, into the hope I have for the system is that Hoyoverse gives us a free-to-play way to get 4 elixirs every patch. 3 from world exploration, or whatever other thing they add, alongside 1 from crafting it. I will not be counting, for example, I will not be counting the Battle Pass one, because that is a paid one. I'm talking about something that free-to-plays could be doing. And even if, let's say, we don't get 4 per patch, at the very least, give us 2 per patch, right? 1 through exploration and 1 through creating it, so that every 2 patches, at the very least, we can craft 1 goblet. Because the thing is, most players will want to craft goblets, because goblets are the hardest thing to actually get in the game, pretty much. The hardest type of artifact is an elemental goblet generally, not even on set. how, like, it's so hard to even get an on-set elemental goblet for a specific character. Because the goblet is pretty much the artifact which has the most main stats it can roll, right? In comparison to, I think the hat has like 5. Meanwhile, the goblet has 6 only through elementals, plus physical, plus elemental mastery, plus HP and defense, etc., etc. I think it has like 9 stats it can roll. So whenever you roll a goblet, it's a 1 in 9 if you even get the proper element, and then you also have to roll the minor affixes. And that's what I'm saying. To me, the system can be good if we're able to get enough to craft a goblet per patch, or worst case scenario, and even then I'm very like, I dislike that a lot. Worst case scenario, every 2 patches. And as I said, even if it's every 2 patches, because I would still hate that. This is why I feel like we kind of have to wait and see. Like, yes, criticize the system so that Hoyo sees this. We need to criticize the system because so that Hoyo sees this and realize that we don't like it the way it is right now. So now let's actually go into me using my first 4 sanctifying essences, which was for, as I said, an on-set pyro goblet for my Arlecchino. And how did that go? Well, sorry, wrong button. I need to press C. Well, not necessarily the worst, but not the best either, because it has a ton of defense, but it also has a ton of crit damage. Now, here's the thing. Both my my previous goblet and my sands were pretty bad. Even though this went way too much into defense, it still ended up being an upgrade in both crit rate and crit damage, because I was able to equip an off piece in the sands slot, rather than having to have the goblet be an off piece and be a really awful goblet, while also having not that great of a sands, because I didn't have a good onset sands. So in the end, I think I had like 3% extra crit rate and 8% extra crit damage, which, yes, technically speaking, it's minimal, but when you actually end up min-maxing your stats, which I don't really do, but I just wanted an upgrade for my Arlecchino, it is quite a lot. But yeah, I still have upgrades to do. Like, this is still not something I'd want. So, in conclusion, I am not entirely certain where to really place this, if it's a bad system or a good system. Because on one side, there's a lot of resources that have to go into this, because you need to sacrifice pretty much 20 level 4 artifacts, 25 level 4 artifacts, which is quite a lot of artifact experience. But the thing is, you also have kind of a choice. Do you want to craft that possibly perfect artifact? Well, if you do want to go ahead and min-max in that way, you can. Right? You have the possibility. It will be a grind fest, that is true, and unfortunately, unlike in other games in Genshin, you cannot properly permanently grind, because domains are tied to resin, and world artifacts you can find in the random glittering spots are also limited per day. So yeah, but at the very least, it's another use for the players that, well, I guess don't really have much to do when it comes to artifacts, those who either don't want to min-max or who have already min-maxed for their favorite characters. Yes, they are expensive. Crafting a goblet for 4 of them is quite expensive, but when you think about the versatility of a goblet, both as an onset elemental goblet for your favorite character that can also be an offset piece for pretty much any other character of that same element, it kind of feels like it balances each other out. Now the question remains in this situation, how well does it balance each other out? Because if we end up having a single sanctifying elixir per patch, so only through crafting it, without counting the ones, for example, from the token wheel or the battle pass, then the casual free-to-play player might just end up crafting 1 goblet every 3-4 patches in the end, instead of being able to craft 1 every patch. like some other players, like paid players, would be able to do. This would give also paid players a huge advantage by allowing them to craft a goblet every 2 patches instead of 4. Again, this we kind of have to wait to see 5.1, 5.2, a filler patch pretty much, to see how many of these we get in a filler patch that doesn't have any form of exploration. Because I can pretty much guarantee you that we'll see more sanctifying elixirs within the world through the troves, the tribal troves that we've had for the 3 tribes that we are right now in game. And there's at least 3 more tribes coming out. We don't know exactly when each of them is coming, but we know they are. But yeah, I'd say it's mid. It can be good, it could have been amazing, it could have been the best system that Genshin has ever added if it was 1 sanctifying essence per goblet, for any type of artifact, and just allow us to craft 1 and then get 1 from the battle pass. Do not put them in the world, right? Just 1 per 1 artifact every patch would have been, in my opinion, a good settlement between allowing us to make them infinitely or making it in the way that the system is currently working. Because yes, there could have been also the situation where we would be able to make as many sanctifying essences by giving as many artifacts as we want. That would have been, I feel like, the best part if you would be to talk about keeping goblets as 4 costs. Because then you would be able to just grind as much as you want for that 1 perfect artifact, and you in a single patch could get even 2 goblets if you would really put the work in. Not sure exactly, but I would have to do some math on that. But yeah, I feel like it's mid. The way it's done right now, it's not the greatest, it's not the worst, but it could be improved, and I really hope that Hoyoverse improves it either by showing that we'll get at least 1 goblet guaranteed per patch, through exploration and doing maybe quests. Maybe they're gonna add them alongside Crowns of Insight in events once they see that we don't like the way it's done right now. All we can do right now is hope. If 5.1 doesn't bring any new way to get the elixirs, I'm gonna be quite disappointed in what Hoyo is doing, especially with all the current competition that's coming up with WoA pretty much being better and better by the patch, pretty much. But yeah, I also want to tell you guys that I do have another video on this topic, but it's more of a what could the Hoyoverse done instead of this. And a little spoiler, this would allow you to get the perfect artifact through grinding. Lots of grinding, but at least any artifact could become the perfect self. Anyway, if you do want to see that, or if you've enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment, or even subscribe. I want to thank you guys for watching, and hope to see you all in the next one.